sharing with you 3 Halloween desserts. The first dessert I'm starting with is witch hat cookies. Technically, the recipe called for peanut butter cookies, but I wasn't in the mood for cookies this day. So I made my sugar cookie dough that I like, and I colored it purple. Well, somewhat purple. I added a little bit too much blue, so it was like a dark bluish purple. But yeah, but you would do the same thing if you made peanut butter cookie dough. All you would have to do is color it purple. So yeah, and I should have done this in the mixer, like when it was with the beater and all that, and I didn't. So I ended up coloring it with my hands and ended up coloring my hands. But yeah, not a big deal. After I got the color mixed up, I scooped it in. I used my cookie scoop to make sure they were all even. I ended up getting 16 cookies all together. After I scooped out the number of cookies I got, I rolled them into balls and I placed them in the freezer for 30 minutes to an hour to chill. That way they would keep their shape. Sometimes the longer they're out, the more they spread. So I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna pop them in the freezer for a little bit, and that way I won't have to worry about them spreading. Once they come out of the freezer, you will roll them in nonpareils. I use the Halloween ones mainly because, yeah, they're Halloween. So so they ended up being orange, black, green, and purple sprinkles on them. And I did this after they came out of the freezer because I know sometimes if I put the sprinkles in the freezer, the sprinkles start to melt almost. But they still stuck to the cookies really well with even being frozen. But they weren't fully frozen. They were just kind of chilled. It would take a while for them to freeze completely solid, I'm pretty sure. And I freeze cookie dough all the time, and I've never had a problem with it actually freezing completely solid. While I was rolling them in the sprinkles, I did have the oven preheating to 375. So when the oven got done preheating, I placed them in the oven and baked them for 8 minutes. I will also add that I did not use an entire batch of my cookie dough to make these cookies. I split it into thirds, and this is a third of the cookie dough. So if you used all of it, you would get closer to 50 cookies. So while that was baking, I was unwrapping Hershey Kisses. The inspiration I saw called for the hugs. I cannot find hugs anywhere near me anymore unless they have a chocolate filling. That is not a hug to me. A hug is white chocolate with milk chocolate stripes. So I just used some Hershey Kisses that I already had on hand and used those. They still turn out perfectly fine. And I do add the Hershey Kiss as soon as they come out of the oven. I've heard people talk about they melt too much. I've never had that problem. And I've been making cookies like this for years. So this is what they look like when they're finished. I do think they kind of look like witch hats, but it's just all in interpretation. But they're really cute and they tasted really good, and honestly, that's what matters. The next recipe is for gilded skull cakes. I saw this on Pinterest, and I had extra cake mix from when I did Isaiah's birthday cake. I did post the video on making his birthday cake. That was the skull cake I made. So if you want this recipe for this cake mix, that's where that'll be, or cake batter. That's perfect because this was homemade. I just used the leftovers I had and the silicone skull pan I've had to do this. Honestly, this wasn't one of my favorites that I've ever made, but they did turn out cute. And they tasted good as well. And honestly, that's what matters. So, yeah, I just filled these up, baked them 350, I think. I set the timer for 20 minutes and I just kept checking on them because I wasn't sure how long they would actually take. I think they ended up taking like 30 minutes in total, but something like this that wasn't meant to be cupcakes or a shaved cake, because this is more like a cupcake in my opinion. you kind of have to err on the side of just knowing when cake batter is done. So, yeah. I just used the toothpick test on these. I stuck in a toothpick. If it came out clean, it was done. It was just easier to do that because I'd never baked with this recipe before, but it is really good. Okay, so at this point, I am flipping the cakes out. They've been in the pan for about 10 minutes, cooling. Honestly, I probably could have let them cool a little bit longer, but they did come out perfectly fine. I did have some of the edges crack off, but I've had that problem with just using a box cake mix in this pan. It's just something about it being a silicone cake pan, but I didn't lose the shape and it didn't impact the structure of the cake. So after they came out of the pan, I let them cool all the way before I did anything to decorate. Okay, so decorating these is a little bit different. I don't usually use canned frosting, but in the case of these, that's what I use. I had Dolly Parton's it's Duncan Hines, but it's the Dolly Parton chocolate frosting. I just melted that in the microwave at 30-second increments until it was melted to the consistency I wanted. And yes, you do need to make sure you remove all of the metal before you do it. And I'd place the cakes on a cooling rack on top of a wax paper lined baking sheet. That way, if I had to use the frosting again, I could. And I didn't want to have to clean the baking sheet. And I started by spooning it, and then I ended up just pouring it. It made more sense to do it this way. And I did end up having to go up underneath and getting some of the extra frosting that was on the wax paper to completely coat some of these. But that's why you put the frosting on the wax paper, so it does that. And then I shake it a little bit just to make sure everything kind of drips. It's completely covered. Then after, I did move these over to another piece of wax paper after I had done this step. You don't have to do that. You can leave them to cool and set on this right here, but I wanted to get my space cleaned up, so I moved these over. So after I just used 2 forks to move them over. And once I had moved them over, that's when I got to decorate. I just used sanding sugar that I had in different colors. I went for gold originally, and that's what worked out best. I put some purple on a few of them, but you couldn't really see the purple. But the gold turns out really well. And everybody really liked these. It's just, I am my own worst critic, and I don't think this was my best work, but they tasted good. And they are cute. I think I might try this again next year and see if I can kind of hone it in. Or instead of doing the chocolate frosting, I might use white and then go through with royal icing and pipe something on them, and that way it would look more like a Day of the Dead or a sugar skull instead of a gilded skull. I think this was roughly based off like mummies in Egypt on all that stuff, with how they had the mask made. But yeah, either way, this is what they turn out to look like. That's my problem with the chocolate frosting. You cannot see the shape of the face as well as I want it. The final recipe is Halloween brownies, and this one's by far the easiest. It's a box of brownie mix, but you just prepare the brownie mix according to the box directions. You grease a 9x13, put the brownie mix in it, sprinkle with some M&M. These brownies still turned out cute and they still taste good, and that's honestly what matters. But you just all you have to do is bake these according to package directions. So I baked them at 325 for 24 minutes, and the box says 24 to 27 for a 9x13. I always err on the side of the shortest time, because I know they continue baking in the pan after they come out. But you can always, I've been baking for so long, I can look at a pan of brownies and say it's done. But if you can't do that, use a toothpick and stick the toothpick in 2 inches from the side, and if it comes out clean, that's how you know they're done. But this is what it looks like before it bakes, and they look cute now, but after they bake, I think they look even cuter. So this is what it looks like when they are completely done baking. I will say, as they cool, the cookies will kind of sink down into the brownie a little bit more, but they don't lose their shape and they don't lose their pattern, which I love. So, yeah, but this is going to be it for this Halloween desserts video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button down below. I have more videos like this, which I will link in the cards. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.